Hey everybody, my name is MetalMusicMan.
And I'm Professor Lex.
And this is episode 16 of the Metal and Lex podcast. We are so prolific.
Look at us. Look at us go. I'm so proud of us.
We're never not going to self-congratulate at the beginning of every single podcast.
I think that's part of the experience, isn't it? If you told me 4 months ago that I'd be doing this for 4 months, that's not right?
It would have felt it. I think. It
is. It is. If it's episode 16.
Oh, you're right. Because
4 weeks
that's
in a month,
how.
Weekly
because that's
publication.
how things go.
That's what time is. That's what math looks like when we do it. Oh no.
So I think if you had said 4 months of a weekly podcast and suggested that to me, I would have just been like, no, thank you. I'm busy. I have World of Warcraft to play.
I have people to see. I have things to do outside. I have people to talk to. If you had told me 4 months ago, I'd have said, I'm going to go to a large group gathering and have my face exposed and breathe on some people. That's what I'd have done.
Yeah, that's what you would have expected to be doing. Yeah. I got my face exposed a bit today because I don't know. I feel so stupid, but like the businesses don't require it, and I'm honestly just like I'm walking in to pick up a sandwich, so I don't feel that bad because it's not like I'm not like eating in at a restaurant, but like at work I'll go to like the deli and I do like a Grubhub and I just walk in and pick it up and I'm like, I forgot my mask, and nobody wears a mask because St. Charles doesn't give a shit. But since I didn't have a mask on, and since it is summer and I have 1 like milli% more tan than usual, I did get checked out twice while I was eating a sandwich. So that was pretty cool.
What kind of a sandwich was it?
It was just a ham sandwich. Well, a
ham sandwich with like banana peppers and salami, or was it just like
it was ham and it was just ham and white bread. That was it. No. And I paid money for it.
St. Charles is wild.
That's the white people food meme. It's like there's no seasoning, there's no. Yeah, Dave Chappelle has one about that. I think.
Yeah. No, the seasoning. I thought you were saying that like the plain unvarnished ham sandwich.
Well, it's all the same. I mean, that was my ex's family was that way. Whenever like we'd go over for dinner. And they'd be like, "We're gonna cook steaks." I'm like, "Cool. What are you gonna do with those steaks?" "I'm gonna put them on heat." No, they didn't boil them, but it was literally just like heat. Like you just heat the steak. There's no salt. There's no pepper. There's no searing. There's no marinade.
Garlic. There's no.
Yeah, I'd be like, this is a problem. Like we gotta put some shit on these steaks.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was no good.
Did they overcook them?
Oh, of course. Yeah,
I respect that. I didn't want to cast aspersions.
Yeah, no, I actually.
It sounds like they deserve.
I didn't have like amazing cooks. My mom's actually not a great cook overall, but she has a few dishes that she's actually, I would say, pretty darn good at. They're like I wouldn't. She's messed up a lot of dishes to hilarious comedic fashion over the years.
But that's how you're supposed to.
And that, sort of. There's
that's how you get better.
No, she doesn't do that. She like doesn't preheat the oven. She doesn't pay attention to the the thing that we all love giving my mom shit about in my family. We're on cooking now. Anyway, she would always want to make a red velvet cake for my birthday because I love red velvet cake, and all my brothers and sisters who have no originality of their own would also request red velvet cakes because they didn't know what else to do. So then my mom just started making red velvet cakes all the time. My aunt has an amazing red velvet cake recipe. She makes the best red velvet cake of all time. She has the recipe. And my mom failed year in, year out for years, trying every time we would request a red velvet cake for my birthday. She would try to tackle it. She would put her heart and soul into it, dude. But her heart and soul involves not reading the directions and not preheating the oven. And there were multiple different times where like the icing looked like boogers or like just weird things happen. And long story short, come to find out, like years later, we're going through the steps. My mom's like, "Oh yeah, I never used buttermilk because I just figured I could just sub in regular milk and it wouldn't make any difference." And we'd just be like, Mom,
why would you figure that?
The buttermilk is why it has that little tanginess to it. It's why it has like the texture of the icing. Like, yeah.
Because it's a cultured milk.
Two things. I'm going to drop some bombs here before we get into things.
Oh shit.
If you are a motherfucker who says, "Oh, where do you like red velvet cake? It's just chocolate cake with red." I will find you and I will fucking murder you because it's not the same fucking thing. It might be
totally
the same
different
base process. There are people who do make that. They do make red velvet cake, and it is literally just chocolate cake
red
with red
chocolate
with red color. But that's not red velvet cake. Red velvet cake is
it's not velvet.
It has fucking buttermilk in it. Okay, so it's a little bit tangy. The icing also has buttermilk in it, and it's got a whole different thing. And if you get red velvet cake and you do cream cheese icing, I'm not going to cancel you and I'm not going to murder you. But you need to know that cream cheese icing is objectively inferior on a red velvet cake to the buttermilk tangy icing.
I just don't like cream cheese icing on a general note.
I like it in small degrees, but like it's overbearing. And that's the problem is that everywhere you go, and I guess what everybody thinks of a red velvet is just like this generic one they get at like a crappy place. That's not red velvet.
Barrel.
That's not red velvet, bro. It's not it. I mean, it's decent, all right? Like if you give me a Twinkie, it's fucking good. I'm going to eat it. But it's not.
You're not that picky, but you are murderous.
Yes, exactly. I will murder you. So anyway, anyway, food, things, recipes, stuff. That was quite the tangent. I did not expect
it was.
To get there.
I don't even know how we got here.
I have to finish it off. I have to finish
16 weeks.
We're talking about white people eating plain ham on white bread.
Yes,
But no, so my mom does make a couple things though that are really good. She makes like a pork roast thing that I really like. She makes she's got like this unique spaghetti that I feel like anyone would hate and technically isn't spaghetti, but I fucking love it. It's the best shit of all time.
It's not technically spaghetti.
It's like it's spaghetti noodles, but the way she makes the sauce is kind of a weird thing that I feel like if you were like a spaghetti connoisseur, you'd probably be like, this is not. It's like a
Tell me, sugar? Is that the secret? Is that why it's so weird?
No, there's no secret. It's just like kind of I don't know what she does. I know there is sugar in it. Yeah, there's sugar in the sauce, but like I don't know what.
I think it's a Midwest thing.
Yeah, there's some in it.
I think it's a Midwest.
But it's not just that. It's also like the sauce is like really thin and like there's like different. It's very odd, but I love it. I love my mom's spaghetti like so much.
Sure.
Yeah. And then she does a corned beef hash that's really good. So she has like a couple dishes that she makes that I'm like, hell yeah, mom. Those are the mom classics. You know what I mean? But where this came out, what I was going to finish is my dad actually was a pretty good cook of like meat things and knew how to like properly cook. And he was all about seasoning. We had like 2 cabinets full of spices. So I remember the first time I encountered the like white people don't season their food thing. I was just like, I don't understand this at all.
What?
Because it didn't apply to me. And then I met other white people's families and they were just like, would you like green beans out of a can with no salt or pepper? No, I would not.
Why is that? I
don't know.
What's the cultural? Because I've got white family.
I feel like it's
some of my best friends are white. But like, what's
It's like any stereotype. Sometimes there are like rooted truths to it,
Yeah,
sometimes,
but like why? Why wouldn't you season something? Are you afraid of it? Not like you as a white person.
My guess.
If you do have that,
my guess is I could be totally wrong here, but I think it's the same reason that your traditional Southern food, which is objectively crappy ingredients, like your tripe, your stuff like that can be good because you have to learn how to actually cook tripe to make tripe good. But if you're not used to that and you can just buy like a shitty TV dinner, you don't really have a need to develop those skills unless you're interested in it. So my guess would be it has something to do with that. I mean, that's kind of why, and they talk about that a lot on all of my food douche media that I consume, where it's like, I do cook a pretty mean tuna steak, right? But what does it mean to cook a mean tuna steak? I mean, you can fuck it up by overcooking it, but once you know what to do and how to season it, you sear it. You sear it a minute on. There's some art, but there's a little art. But it's like you sear it a minute on each side, and you keep it raw in the middle, and you season the shit out of it, and it's good. But like compare that to like I could not cook like pork butt or something like in some way, or like, well, no, pork butt's in it. I'm just going to use tripe. I'm going to use tripe. Yeah, I'm going to use tripe again. But there's other, I couldn't cook like something like, I don't know anything about that and I'm sure it takes like a larger degree more skill to make that good because it's
finesse.
It's a less, I don't know, a less innately delicious ingredient, I guess. It's an ingredient that you have to like suss the deliciousness out of a bit. I assume privilege is the answer to answer your question shortly.
Yeah. What was I thinking of? It was always privilege.
So I think that's the answer to your question. If I had to take a guess at it. Also, stovetop stuffing is fucking delicious. So I mean, if you not a fan of stovetop stuffing.
Well, it's not that it's bad. It tastes like stovetop stuffing, and I prefer the real
stuffing. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, no question. No question.
I've never had. I mean, like if I was going to have stuffing, my parents would just make.
I'm talking like
stuffing.
kid parent food though, like because so my dad would make stuffing, and this is to the point. My dad would make stuffing, and my mom would make stovetop stuffing. So like, and then it'd be like you have to coax my dad into like. My dad used to make. Oh my god, he had a beans and ham. There's so many things my dad doesn't cook anymore. I think he's forgotten them all, and it makes me so sad.
Shame.
Because his beans and ham recipe is like the fucking most delicious thing I've ever consumed in my life. And there was this one winter I remember where he made like, I don't even know how big this pot was. It barely even fit on the entire stove of all 4 burners. He made this giant pot of his beans and ham. And the thing about the way my dad cooks is he just bullshits everything. He just bullshits it the entire way. He's got like a vague idea, but he's like, I'm going to put a little of this in, taste it, this a little bit, this, cook it down, do some stuff. Yeah. He just bullshits it. So he doesn't have like any definitive recipes for stuff like that. But he made this one winter, this giant pot. And it was so cold. It was like the coldest winter we had. And so he just left this giant pot of beans and ham that he made just in the garage because it couldn't fit in the freezer.
Oh, right. Sure.
So he just left it in the garage, and I ate off that shit for like a month and a half. I would just
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh my God.
Sometimes for dessert.
It was so fucking good. And like, I'll never eat it ever again, probably as long as I live, because I don't know what he did. And I was like too little to know.
You got to subsist on the memory.
Yeah. God, it was so good.
You didn't know what you had.
Oh, I knew.
If someone had told you 4 months ago that was the last.
Oh my God. Well, anyway, yeah. So that was a side bit about food because I am me, and I went on a tangent. Yeah, I am. I am really hungry. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
I had 2 cookies before we started shooting, and they aren't just any cookies. They're Deerberg's cappuccino cookies, which have white chocolate, which I'm not wild about.
I love white
chocolate, and coffee chips. I didn't know that you could make a candy chip version of coffee, and it tastes like coffee.
Intriguing.
With the consistency of like a chocolate chip.
I now want to eat that very badly.
Go to a Deerberg's.
How do you not like
and
white
get
chocolate?
The cappuccino. It's like it's a lie.
It is a lie, but it's a delicious lie, and I don't care that it's a lie. It's like It's like the red-tailed foxes. They're not foxes.
Sure.
They're something else, but I still think they're adorable and wonderful. They just happen to have a name that doesn't fit it.
That isn't right. That isn't true.
The name isn't right, but it's so good. Milk chocolate can die. Like, dark chocolate or white chocolate all day.
Milk chocolate is fine. Dark chocolate is obviously
dark chocolate.
The correct choice.
I would take white chocolate over all 3, but it's white chocolate, dark chocolate, and then like several tiers down, milk chocolate. Like
for me, it's dark
tiers.
chocolate and then white chocolate. Or pardon me, dark chocolate and then milk chocolate.
Man, white chocolate's so good.
That's the whole list.
White chocolate's so good. I could eat like a tub of white chocolate. Like
that would be.
Have you ever had
too much?
Have you ever had an Oreo cookies and cream candy bar before?
Yes.
And you didn't just die because it was so wonderful.
Well, yeah, but I can like taste it in my teeth, which isn't where my taste buds are. But that's the experience I get when I have white chocolate. It just hangs around in my molars.
Yeah, it does do that, and then you get some little after. You get a little
an afterbirth. No.
Oh, so good. All right.
So as you guys can probably tell, we're wild with hunger. We've been alone for months.
Yeah.
We never go outside because then we could get food if we went outside. All we do is work and then do this podcast.
I have been cutting down a bit on my caloric intake this last week and a half or so, trying to curb some of the quarantine weight. Which the
COVID-19.
Yeah, which is not a lot for me. I mean, but I've got like a pretty like set spot that I haven't varied from for about 6 years now since I lost like 35 or 40 pounds or whatever, however long ago that was. And I've been like within about a 5 pound variant of that. And then like I noticed a couple weeks back, I was like, shit, I'm not in there. Like that's not good. Fucking COVID. So anyway, yeah. So that's probably why I'm probably hungry from the lower lower
from
calories.
Not eating.
But anyway, besides food, we're going to talk about happy, exciting things today, and that is all the people who have been canceled recently. That's the topic for today. Strap in.
That may have seemed like an abrupt change of topic for us.
That's
but
because it was.
Consider this the focus attack -- cancel culture.
Wow.
I did it. I've been sitting on this the whole time. I thought of this when we started, like when you called me on Discord.
I was going to say,
just been sitting and waiting.
How long have you been holding that in?
I figured we were going to go on a tangent, and I didn't know it was going to be quite this long. So it's been like, I've been patiently waiting. I haven't showed my hand.
What's sad is the low percentage, I think, of our listeners who will actually understand that reference, because it is that's pretty cash. But
thank you.
We won't. We won't dilute it by trying to explain it. But yeah, so we've got several people in the fighting game community have gotten canceled or sort of canceled. We don't know. We're still sussing it out. And there's some cancel-y stuff in the WoW community too that we'll talk about. So that's kind of your high level overview. But I guess we'll start with Filipino Champ. You want to start with Filipino Champ?
Sure. Would love to start with Filipino Champ. If I can just say, and this is my own personal tangent, I don't know how many times I've shared this story with you, but I don't think I've told it on the podcast. I'm not a big Filipino Champ fan. And that's like before this happened, because at my very first tournament, Seasons Beatings in Ohio, I traveled, 12, 15 hours. I drove all the way out there, got there just in time to run into my Marvel pool, won my first 3 games, and then I was supposed to play against Filipino Champ. And back in the day, Marvel was 2 out of 3 games rather than 3 out of 5. And this was vanilla. This was when I was at my best. And I was set. I knew I was going to beat Filipino Champ.
Oh, shit.
We set our buttons. And he says, this is after having made me wait. Fuck this guy. He made me wait like an hour because he was playing money matches in another room. And I was like, hey, can you just like fucking DQ this guy? And they were like, I don't know. Top player
Filipino
privilege.
Champ.
Yeah,
well, especially back then, before. I mean, say what you
Yep.
will about Twitter and all this cancellation, which I'm sure we'll get into, and the negativity and badness of it, which is a common thing people bring up. But like, honestly, I don't know. Some of the accountability is not bad either, right? And like now it is harder for a top player to be like to put that pressure on an individual TO when people are like, "Hey, what the fuck? Why are you doing that on Twitter?" Like it counterbalances that bullshit. So anyway, go on.
Yeah, so we get all of our buttons set where he says, hey, there's something going on with my headphones. Can we restart? And he restarts the PlayStation, and then we select our characters. We go into the match. My buttons are fucked. Because when he reset the PS3, it demapped all of my buttons, but he played on default.
Oh my God. And you didn't...
So I lost the first game. Well, no, because, I didn't know that series of events would cause it to happen.
I would bet a large sum of money that he did that on purpose, knowing that you might not know it.
Yeah.
That is exactly the kind of person that he is. It could be total bullshit. Even if he didn't do it on purpose,
still fuck that guy. It was still fucked up. But anyway, recently he tweeted out #Watermelon Lives Matter.
Yes, I want to. Okay, before we dive into that, I want to give my own little backstory. But yeah, we might as well.
Go ahead.
The cat's out of the bag, so quickly. Yeah. He tweeted a picture of a watermelon, and then it was like something. Check this out, and then it was #Watermelon Lives Matter. So, all right, hang on. We're gonna pin that real quick because I think we need some more backstory. Because I think,
more than anyone, we need to build a character profile.
More than anyone, we're gonna talk about. He needs a backstory. And I'll get into why that's important in a minute. So, okay. For me, I remember the first time I saw him was at one of I believe it was SoCal Regionals, maybe it was NorCal Regionals. It was when those were starting to be like the big tournaments. Like even before, it was like EVO had happened and everyone was like, holy shit, Street Fighter 4 is amazing. There's all this momentum. And it was like the year after the first EVO, or maybe it was the second one, I forget, but it was very early where like, it was either, I think it was both actually, NorCal and SoCal Regionals. Both were like really big tournaments in terms of streaming. And I remember like as a stream monster watching like the whole fucking thing, the entire weekend, being fucking glued to it.
Plugged in.
And that was when like, I was so dialed into the Street Fighter 4 scene, dude. Like I knew, I mean, I very famously, and by famously, I mean in my group of like 3 people that I went to EVO with. But the year Shen won, we all walked by Shen and I was like, that guy's going to win EVO. And then he won. Because I was just so like, I was so dialed into like everyone. You had your finger to the pulse. Everyone playing everyone. I mean, So anyway, so I first met Filipino Champ. Well, not met, saw him on a stream, I guess, at those. And he was a real douche. Like he was clearly obnoxious. He kept jumping in front of the camera or like delaying games, just doing shit to get attention, to be an asshole. He was obnoxious. Everyone that was watching the stream with me thought he was obnoxious. So he is like a troll heel, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But I'm going to about face a bit and not just totally shit on him, because there have been certain times where I have actually found him more endearing or less of a piece of shit and more of a necessary evil. Okay. And he's a really controversial person in general. So like, don't like take this as me, you know. I don't think I've ever been a fan of him.
Just this.
I don't think, yeah. I don't think I've ever been a fan of him ever. And I generally hated him quite a bit early on, but I feel like he kind of like waned back the other way, or leaned back the other way.
Waxed.
For a little bit, where I remember like, there were a lot of people who were doing really long delays, and this was before we had like written into the rules. This is how old.
Yeah, 5 minutes and you get knocked. Or
they were doing like, well, not even. I mean, I don't even mean like to the match. I mean like within like going back to character select between rounds or whatever the fuck. Yeah. So there are people that were just like really abusing this, and it got to a head where this is where you almost kind of need someone like this, where Filipino Champ was playing someone, I don't remember who, and he had the tech where he won the first game. He gave the guy, if memory serves, like a minute or two on character select, you know, and he was just being normal. And then when he still like wasn't doing anything, and it was clearly just like he was trying to ice him out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Filipino Champ had the tech where you hold on the character select screen for Street Fighter 4. If you hold up or down on the character select screen for Street Fighter 4, yes, it keeps scrolling automatically. So if you hold up, it's like ding, 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 and it just keeps,
because every time you
when it gets to the top, it pops back down to the bottom, and then goes back up. And if you hold right, it goes ding, 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 and then eventually when it hits the side, it goes back to the left side.
Pac-Man's back around.
But he had the tech that if you hold a diagonal, it does both directions simultaneously, and it's like, and it just makes the most obnoxious rapid fire noise. So he held that down. And then he started like looking at the guy like right up next to him, and he's just like hitting every button on his controller, making as much noise as possible. And okay, it is a dick move, but also you kind of need a guy like that in the Wild West where there isn't a rule that you can't just take 15 minutes. Yeah. So you kind of need like a counter asshole. So there have been some times where he's been that. Another time that I really appreciated his existence was when everyone was getting fat money up their fucking butt for Street Fighter 5. And everyone on Twitter, fucking every person, fucking Justin Wong, Alex Valle, all the fucking people, all the names you know, were like, Street Fighter 5, oh my god, I just love this game.
It's Things the future.
And then I went to Evo, and I walked by every single one of those motherfuckers. I walked by Yipes, I walked by Alex Valle, I fucking walked by fucking Lee Chung. Every one of those motherfuckers walking by their pools just like, fuck this game. I fucking hate this game. It's a fucking pile of garbage. Fuck you, Capcom. They had the same sentiments that I had, but they just weren't putting them out there because they were making too much fucking money. And along comes Filipino Champ, and he gets interviewed by Born Free after Bonchan is. And this is when Bonchan was like the translator like paused and then translated. And Bonchan goes, the person who designed Balrog. And then he like looks at him and he stutters, and then Bonchan nods. And then the translator goes, is retarded. and like, this is like Bonchan. Bonchan is only known by people, he's Japanese. He's only known by people as this really good, really nice Sagat. He always gets like second. He's amazing, but he just never wins. And like, he's never said anything. And he just goes on this tangent about how fucking stupid this character is, how stupid this game is. You know, whatever. And so then Filipino Champ comes in the same thing, and he's just like, I think the people who made this game like this to be shitty on purpose. Like, you know, he's also interviewed by Born Free. He's like, they did this on purpose because they don't want someone like me who's been playing for 10 years to be any good. They want it to be like this, and that's why it's never going to get fixed, and that's why this game is ass, because they're not going to listen to our criticisms because they want it this way. They've done exactly what they want. And so I guess I want to, before we shit on him super hard, and I think the reason this is relevant, which I'll get into in a minute.
And we're going to.
Oh yeah, we're going to. But the reason I think this is relevant is, to me, I don't think he was canceled for saying hashtag Watermelon Lives Matter. And I actually don't think he should have been canceled just for that in a vacuum.
Just for that?
I don't. It was stupid. It was stupid.
It was stupid.
Do you know what was?
Racist.
Do you know what was? No. What was worse and more dumb and racist than when he tweeted #Watermelon Lives Matter as like a dumb joke, which was obviously a racist joke.
It's not even funny.
It's not funny. But what was dumber is that his actual defense, he literally did. He was like, he literally said, I don't remember the tweet word for word, but the tweet it was basically, guys, I'm not racist. Everyone knows my best friend is CJ Showstopper and whoever. He literally was like, guys, I'm not racist.
Some of my best friends
because some of my best friends are the blacks. Like that was his actual.
They love me.
That was so much. Like I could have maybe been like, all right. That's a really poor taste racist joke that has no excuse. But like maybe you just didn't think it through. But then when he like doubled down on like, but guys, my friends are black, I was like, bro, like how much deeper can you dig this ditch? Like, come on, man. But I think okay, I'm almost done. I think though he was not canceled for that. Because really, in the scheme of things, it was poor taste. It was shitty. Yes, but in the scheme of things that people have been canceled for and that we're about to talk about, that is literally nothing. Yeah. It is literally nothing.
This is low grade.
And this is what I kind of have a little bit of a problem with, because I don't know if I agree with his cancellation for that exact reason. Because on the one hand, I am certain he deserves to be canceled.
Okay, you just don't like that this is all getting pinned on
the
watermelon thing.
Yeah.
Watermelon gate.
And so this is like, he has done so many things in the past that definitely are like worse than.
Yeah.
But he didn't get it. And so now it's one of those things where people go, well, we kind of vaguely know you did bad things. And so here's the thing you did that really, it's bad, but it's not. I mean, compared to it, like, again, what we're about to get into, not even the worst thing he's ever done. I mean, it's a bad racist joke and poor taste at a horrible time. It's like, okay, let me put it this way. I equate that pretty much directly with when Neil deGrasse Tyson made the tweet about deaths and numbers. Do you know what I'm talking about? He
yeah.
It was like right after it was like a massacre. It was like one of the shootings that happened.
Yeah.
And he tweeted something that was like, oh, this many people get killed by these. It's interesting that we don't care as much about this kind of event as we do about mass shootings, which is true statistically.
Fair or true or
and a good point. But also, why the fuck did you tweet it the day after a mass shooting? You fucking ass. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's one of my favorite people. I don't think I could ever cancel him unless he got like a Louis C.K. level thing where it was just like, oh God, like, oh no, like
you can't do that.
Which he almost did, but then it wasn't a thing. So hopefully that's all still good. But like, I love NDT. He's like one of my favorite people in the world. But to me, that's what this Filipino Champ tweet was like, where it was just like a really stupid, horrible, dumb thing to say at literally the worst possible time.
That was the worst part of it, was his timing.
Yeah.
It is more offensive than the thing.
The fact that they immediately canceled him, like, just for that, compared to every other dumb thing he's done over the years, which he's done like actually more racist shit or actually more offensive shit to everyone, like on camera. Yeah. But now is the reason that, and that's kind of my problem with it, is like like Mr. Wizard or whoever comes out and they just say that now because of that time. That's the only reason they did it. When he's had, so I don't know. Anyway, I guess I wanted to get that whole picture out there. I will shut the fuck up now. Please tell me your thoughts on Watermelon Gate.
On Watermelon Gate. So like, I guess you're right, because I would just rather he not be a part of the fighting game community, and the watermelon shit offends me, but that's not the most offended I've been by him.
Exactly.
Like, fuck him, but like not to the same degree as that character select button remapping bullshit. I mean, cancel him for that.
He's done stuff like that. I don't have, this is all stuff that is just in my head, so I don't know. I'd have to do more research, but I swear to God, like my brain is telling me there are multiple similar instances of him doing weird shit, like pausing and then like trying to play about the rules of who paused, because those weren't like he
it was nebulous back then.
Any way you can get it, quote unquote, like
he'll play the game as much in the game as out of the game, which sucks, because he's so good at the game. He shouldn't have to play in real life. He should only have to play the video game. When Marvel first came out, I remember Guilty was doing very well. And she was at a tournament, and like the setup got bumped that they were playing on, and she was winning, and bumping the setup caused the power on the PlayStation to go out or whatever. So they reset it and tried to put it back in the same way it was. And like at that point, not only did you ice her, you also got the extra layers of bullshit.
So
right? Yeah, because like you're not going to be able to recreate the scenario. And there was a certain momentum that was clearly in her favor at the moment that we've just completely erased. I think she went on to lose the game, but I can't remember. But yeah, honestly, the watermelon thing, whatever. Fuck that guy. He's a racist. He's a prick.
That's kind of what I mean. Is like he is such a prick. He definitely has done, and that's I don't know. That's the thing, and that's what'll make it hard because now since he did weird watermelon thing, it's like that's going to make it worse for him and everyone. That makes the whole issue worse, right? Where he's not going to be able. You might have someone like who was recently tweeting about it. I've always liked what's his name? Logan Sama. But he was kind of a prick at a certain time in the FGC. And he was like actually talking about that today. He was like, I got canceled several years back and I've already like fucking done some things and I lost these opportunities and I've kind of like rebuilt myself. And I think that's fine and accurate. You know what I mean? But I don't think we're going to see that with Filipino Champ.
No,
because he's just going to be like, this is stupid. Well, not because we wouldn't anyway as easily because of that, but also because he's just going to be like, fucking watermelons, blah, 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 or whatever. Contrast that with Chris G. Well, okay.
Unfamiliar with his cancellation.
Okay, I know about this one because I got interested and looked it up because I didn't know about it and then heard about it. And this is another one that I disagree with because of the timing. Not because of the reason, though, unlike Filipino Champ. So he said some shit, which I'll detail in a moment, 3 years ago, I believe. And he has been a member of EG for
Evil
this
Geniuses.
whole time. Yeah, the Evil Geniuses, competitive organization. For this whole time since they knew about it when they signed him. And he just got kicked from them for having said that 3 years ago, like last week. Now, that is that's bullshit. It's stupid as fuck. And that shouldn't happen. Conversely, he should have never gotten signed for the fucking shit that he said at the time. Because what he said was, I'm paraphrasing, but there's a Facebook message chat of it. But it's basically like, Asian women are so good at video games because they're Asian. Because Asian people are good at video games and Asian women are good at video games. And someone was like, okay, words. And then he was like, but black women suck at video games.
Whoa.
Because black women just can't be good, and everybody knows that. And if you think black women can be good at video games, then you're just an idiot because everyone knows that the only women who can be good at video games is Asian women. And I was like, well, goddamn, how the fuck did anybody sign this dude if that's what he said? Because I didn't even know that's what he said. Can't wait for somebody to clip that and pretend that it was me saying it.
Jesus.
So yeah, and Chris G even said, and I've got to kind of relate with him a little bit here. He said recently, he goes, I don't understand. EG knew about this when they signed me. I told them about it. I brought it to them. I said, I fucked up. I said, this was very stupid. I knew I was wrong. I brought it to them. They said, no problem.
Whatever, it's not like George Floyd
and
got
he was
murdered
like,
by the police.
Yeah, and he was like,
have been marched.
And he was like, I woke up yesterday and now they're fucking putting, and I was like, that's pretty dumb. Like,
that's dumb. Yeah.
You shouldn't have been signed, like, to begin with at that time. You should not have been signed.
Definitely not. Not until he had made some kind of amends. Yeah.
Yeah, but like,
and now we're setting him up because if they had canceled him back in 2014 or whatever, then he could have done something to better himself, to apologize, to make amends, to make things right, to clear up the ledger. But now he's getting punished for this admittedly horrible, awful, god-awful racist bullshit he did. But he can't make amends for it because it was 5 years ago, or maybe he did make amends for it, and we'll just never know.
It's tough for me to reconcile some of it because of the historical aspect of it. Because there are things that people said at those times that were just more ubiquitously around. I mean, I remember playing Brawl and everybody had a thing about how black Falco players were cool and white Falco players were lame. And I was a white dude who played Falco and I played really lame. And there was a black dude named Chemo in St. Louis who played Falco and he was really fucking cool and flashy. And everyone was like, yeah, look, it's the thing.
Wow, so, like, stereotypes.
I mean, yeah. Yep. but it was a thing that everybody said in 2008, right? That was just a thing. And like, I don't know. I get why it's bad, right? Stereotypes are bad.
You shouldn't say that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% I get it. But also it's like, how far back do you go, right? And also, I mean, that's obviously a lot less benign. I didn't say like, no black person could ever play
Falco
or something or whatever. Yeah,
they're so aggressive. Yeah, no, that. Yeah, and the thing is,
very bad.
It would have been awful. But like, if footage of you surfaced where you had said some awful, racist, god awful shit like that today, I understand why you got canceled.
Yeah,
but if you've been signed,
if I've been. Oh, okay. And footage of me saying it today. Okay, yeah. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, if footage from 2008 came up of you saying something that bad.
Yeah.
Then I'd get why you got canceled. And I would also get why you would have been canceled back in 2008 or whatever when you hypothetically said it.
Yeah.
But like, I understand that there's a threshold. We can't judge the past by today's standards. I think it's fair to judge Chris G and say that is something that's cancel worthy.
I think
but he also should have been canceled back then.
He should have been. It's stupid that he is canceled now, is what's stupid. It's not stupid that he had a degree of cancellation per se.
Sure.
And I think that's what's hard is like, there can't be a definitive, like, how many years ago, it can't be a thing. It's something.
Statute of limitations.
It's just, you can't write that out, right? So like, there are going to be things that, in I don't know, like 10 years is a really long fucking time. 5 years is a pretty fucking long time. 3 years, probably not that long of a time.
Not that long.
but there's no way to get everybody to like have some agreed upon thing for that, right? But I think everybody does know like the difference between, and I don't know, maybe this is just me like having rose-tinted glasses for, my own brawl community, but like for me, there was always like a clear difference between somebody saying something that was related to race that was friendly versus being literally like, no black person could ever be good at this, or no black woman could ever be good at, like,
you can't say that.
That's like a whole degree of difference. Cause I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's pretty, I mean, and that's, I think this is where people get, and they're really quick to say, I want the old FGC, quote unquote. And on the one hand, I agree that
Wild West. Yeah.
Well, yeah, on the one hand, I agree that like it is stupid to say that because that ignores a whole slew of things, not the least of which is the safety of people. Back then, I mean, there were like actual people fighting quite often. I remember having to break up a few weird things at bar wars myself in our local scene. I don't miss that shit at all, dude.
No.
And so it does ignore a lot of that, but I also do understand to a point like where some of that rose tintedness comes from, because there was, I think, something sort of, I don't know, something sort of sacred and nice about being able to give someone shit, but knowing that they were giving you shit in a way that they were doing because they kind of like respected you. And like, I think we've touched on that a bit on our Tournament Memories one, where we kind of brought up race and the FGC. And then you had mentioned, I forget if it was that podcast or a different one, but like some of your experience with like the police and stuff. And it's like, I feel like you can always know someone's intent like pretty easily with what they're saying. And it's very easy to delineate between a person who's just like, women can't be good at video games. And a person who's like got a friend who's good at games. Like I would play with Nicole and she was literally the best peach in Brawl, period, anywhere. And like, it would not be unheard of for me to make a joke to her about how girls can't do things because I knew very well she would kick my ass, and like routinely.
Like IRL or in the game?
In the game. No, in the game. In the game. Okay. Yeah, not because because it would be something, it would be like if I said to you, like, like Lex, I'm a hands savant because I know you're good at hands or something, know, and you'd know I was full of shit because I can't do hands. Right. Like, and so it's, you know what I mean? So like, I think there's stuff like that, but then on the flip side, losing that, if it takes losing that to eradicate the shittier shit, like the stuff that happened to Super Yan in the SFXT stream, if it takes, this is sort of kind of tying this into the current climate, if it takes burning down some Walmarts
Yeah.
You know, like, so it is, yeah.
If you want to make that omelet, you have to burn down a few police substations.
Yeah, so like, maybe it is kind of a shame that you can't make a joke about your black friend having a schmoovin' Falco. But is that really that much to lose compared to compared to, like, you know?
There's an interesting dynamic on the black Falcos are cool and white Falcos are lame. That I think we kind of addressed but didn't say out loud. There's an aspect there of punching up rather than down. When you sit there and think about it, white people are the majority, black people are the minority.
You're shitting on the white people, not the black people.
You're shitting on the white people in the way. And if we say like if you say that the play style of black players is so like flashy and aggressive rather than defensive, offensive is probably the right word. You're still talking about it in a cool way. You're presenting. You're saying. Whether or not you're saying it literally, you're saying black people can't play defensively because they're so cool that they're doing all this flashy offensive shit instead. Even the way that you're insulting, air quotes, insulting them is dressing them up rather than putting them down. So if you had flipped that, if the axiom had been white people play defensively and black people play sloppy, that would be another thing that got you canceled because it's punching down rather than punching up.
Yeah. I think that's super, like, that's a super good point that I hadn't really thought about directly. Yeah. But it is, I think it is self-evident in the statement, right? Which is I really like digging into that. Well done, Professor.
Absolutely. That's why it's okay. It's not actually okay because it's racist.
Yes,
it's okay.
Racist jokes are always racist.
Yes.
Period.
But that's why it's more socially acceptable to say Asian people have great execution. They're so good at combos. Asian people are so good at fighting games.
Asian people are good at math is better than Asian people can't drive because punching up versus punching down.
Exactly, and that's why it's okay. Yes. Air quotes.
They're both racist. They're both racist.
You shouldn't say it.
Yeah.
That's why it's okay to say that Asian people are good at fighting games, and why it's so bad, so bad to say black women suck at fighting games. It's in their blood.
Yeah, I mean, God,
you can't punch down.
It's pretty. Yeah, God, that's a big oof.
Yeah. But that's the nuance. That's the subtlety in play there.
We've talked about this off stream, but I don't think we've said it actually on one of the podcasts yet. But one of my go-to comedians is Bill Burr, and he has a thing that I think I've talked to you about separately outside of this, where he's basically like, I hate all the jokes that are about like black dude, white dude, because it's always like the black dude does something really cool and the white dude does something that's really lame. And it's just like the same fucking joke every single fucking time. And like his, he was talking about, I forget the whole spiel, but like his wife is black. And it was something about where he was like, he basically has like a whole thing where he's like, I'm not going to do those black jokes about my wife because I'm so fucking sick of those black jokes. Where like, you know, so it's, I think even if it is quote unquote, like lifting up, like you're saying, even that there's a point where you're like, but
we don't need it, especially if we could make that kind of a trade where people just stop saying cool black Falco and that's what it takes.
Well, because ultimately that is still like a separate. It's still a stupid stereotype. Which I mean, for me, I like to think, and you know, I like to think there was always a sense of irony in myself making those references, like knowing they were bullshit.
It didn't. You weren't being hateful.
It's still kind of dumb, I guess. Like I don't know. Yeah. Like so, it's. But yeah, I think there's a huge degree to get back to the original point of. I guess what I was trying to kind of draw up is there are a lot of people who say they do miss that in the old FGC, and I don't know that I disagree with looking back kind of fondly on some of that because it is hard to extrapolate some of your experiences from those things and how positive they were, but also. Time is time and things change and it's not necessarily so bad that things aren't exactly the way that they were. I mean, I feel like it's something I don't like throwing under the rug and dismissing. I'm not going to just dismiss that that's a thing, but I also don't feel like I'm losing that much if that's what I have to lose.
If you're giving that up to achieve something.
And that's where I flip back over to the other side of the argument where people get really, really pissy about losing that. And I'm like, I get it, but like, it's not that big a deal because that's basically when it becomes, that's like all the when you're doing all the protest imagery, and it's like, white people with signs that are like, we demand haircuts, and black people with signs that are like, please stop killing us. That's basically like the analogy to that for me, is where you're like, I miss the old FGC. This is bullshit. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but wouldn't it be cool if like women could play video games and not get like assaulted?
Shit on for
like,
it or assaulted? Yeah, pardon
cool?
me.
But I don't know. It's tough too, because like I always bring up, like I said, Nicole is someone I spent a lot of time with in the Brawl era, and I would describe her as pretty counter to feminism and all of that stuff. And there has been some stuff that she said over the years, and I think she's, this is like a 10-year-old snapshot. She's definitely not.
Sure.
I don't think
she's not this person.
I wouldn't describe her that currently. I wouldn't even say. I guess I would describe her as like a pretty non-PC person. And there were a lot of times where she would talk about when it was coming up, and this is why I do hate to be dismissive, but at the same time, it's like, how much are you missing from dismissing certain things? But
sure.
There was a lot of stuff in those years where you had your quote unquote gamer girls coming up, and there was all of the dialogue about, oh, well, you're just a gamer girl and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just going to flat out be like, yeah, that's stupid. It happens way more than it does. But at the time, there was also there wasn't the differentiation between what I think we call now an e-girl and what was being called then a gamer girl. Because to me, my thought was always like, I don't know any women who play video games, and I knew several in the Brawl community. I mean, not a lot because it's fighting games, but like, I would say there was at least like 5 or so women in the pool of people that I knew fairly well from like the Midwest area that had their hands in things, either by being top players, which is like Nicole, or we had tournament organizers, which is like your Yink from Iowa. Radium from St. Louis was also like a pretty, like probably I guess our biggest TO for that game. So they were around, right? And I always remember thinking at the time, before I knew what like an e-girl was, and that's not to say there's anything wrong with being an e-girl, but there's a difference between a girl who plays video games and an e-girl. And there was a lot of focus at that time where people were pissed because they're like, it's just gamer girl. But I think that's because there were people who were basically trying to be what is now an e-girl, and they were trying to say that they were like the same. And then Nicole would always bitch and be like, fuck that. I'm like really good. This bitch just plays Smash and talks to dudes. And she would get pissed about it. And I would always be like, yeah, that is dumb. Like, and looking back on it, I think it's another thing that I feel like you could easily look back on it and think that it deserves some sort of cancellation. But I don't know. I think that's a hill I would die on, because I literally think it was just a semantic difference. Because I think the place we're at now, and that doesn't mean there wasn't a problem, right? That doesn't mean there wasn't a problem with guys getting pissed about girls infiltrating or whatever, because there certainly were guys doing that, and that is shitty. But I do also think it's kind of shitty and disingenuous to be someone who is there as a public figure, we'll say, and then to act like you're getting animosity for your competition when you're not really competing. And so it's tough to draw the line there, because you've got people who then will just say the fact that you're competing and that you're bad, they'll shit on you. Well, that's stupid. That's stupid. Okay. That's dumb. Like, that's really horrible. You wouldn't shit on any dude who went 0-2 in a tournament. And women do get an undue amount of pressure, just by being a woman in the scene. They're expected to perform better.
Because
meanwhile,
if you don't perform, then that means you're just an e-girl. You're a thought.
Exactly. And that is shit. So I want to be clear to say that, like, that's not what I'm defending. But I also definitely met some e-girls that were like they were the definition of an e-girl. And then people would come up and they would make a thread, and there would be a thread about like, who's the best blah character. And someone would be like, this e-girl plays that character. And then someone would very rightfully be like, they're not good. They've never done anything good. No. And then everyone would be like, you hate women. And it's just like, okay.
That's a little far.
So, but again, I want to make it clear that like, it is like not the average of that. And so that's another thing that it's like, I have a hard time with it because I've known so many women who are very good who hate that. But and it's hard, and then they've been accused at times of like being, you know, anti-women as women, and it's like it's tough because I don't know, man. I do think it's like it's a really slippery slope where as soon as you excuse it, and I understand why people don't want to excuse it, because as soon as you say like, well, that person is just a figure, they're not a competitor, it gives all these fucking super incel dudes like ammunition to be like, yeah. I fucking knew. And it's so, but then the flip side is, I guess you just pump all women up, and sometimes it's not really deserving in terms of their accolades compared to dudes, but they're a marginalized group, and that has better positives than negatives. So again, we're burning down Walmarts, I guess. The Walmart that we're burning down is basically that there are a couple women who really aren't that good, who get extra exposure for being a woman. And I guess some guys will be kind of mad about that, but whatever. Okay. Like, who cares?
Everything except for the guys being mad about it, because we don't want them to be mad and like do something.
No, we don't. I'm saying, but but they will be for X amount of time until they aren't, and they get not mad by us continually just being like, shut the fuck up, basically.
Dude, just suck it up.
So.
Sometimes people are nice and we just play games with them.
I guess if I can tie a bow on my whole rambling thing that I think I've been ping-ponging on a life support meter of canceled versus not canceled for this entire diatribe. But if I can put if I can put a bow around it, it's basically like, I just don't want to completely ignore and sweep under the rug the fact that there are legitimate points in some of the quote unquote more I don't want to say toxic because I feel like I recognize toxicity, but I feel like there are things that get labeled sometimes as toxic, and they're not always that way. They're just an opinion that's kind of fair. But losing that opinion is like a lot less, especially in the current climate where we are 90% men or some shit. And so I feel like it is better. Those are the Walmarts. Those are the Walmarts.
Yes, those are the Walmarts. Burn down the Walmarts, yeah.
So if we get to a point where it's like, we're finally at like somewhat even distribution, and then it's like, why are these women getting all this exposure? Like, all right, if we're at like a 70-30 distribution or a 60-40,
60-40 in women's favor,
maybe then
that's when I'll start to complain.
Yeah,
not a moment before.
It's pretty marginal still. Like, that's like, which we talked about before. I mean, racially, the FGC is super diverse, but
yeah,
like gender wise, it's pretty. It's pretty
like
still
90% male.
Yeah, it's still pretty slim. Yeah. And there's a lot of societal stuff I could pin that on, but I'm not going to go on that rant.
Sure.
So anyway, holy shit, where did we just dovetail from?
We were talking about F-Champ, and then we went to Chris G. I wanted to complain about Drew Grimey.
Yes, I know less about this other than a picture that I recently saw.
Holy shit, the picture's all you need to see.
Okay, well, no, I saw a picture of what he was saying. I'll let you take this. You take this.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so as we all know, the FGC is getting way too soft and way too politically correct, and we are losing that foundation, our heritage of hate or
this
whatever. This
is why all this context was so good just now.
Yes. Yeah, so that I could do this.
Yes.
Motherfucking Drew Grimey, famed West Coast Viper player, was like, Filipino champ got canceled over nothing. Why, I once dressed up in blackface, full on blackface, and no one thought twice to call me a racist. And like, that would be stupid to say that, obviously. Why would you ever say that you were in blackface?
But not only like he was paying tribute, and he's the biggest Kimbo Slice fan. He was paying tribute
to Kimbo Slice, yeah. And as we all know, Kimbo Slice, his skin tone was the color of shoe polish, because that's what motherfucking Drew Grimey used to cosplay as Kimbo Slice. He got a do-rag.
I feel like there's a degree of like maybe you're really ignorant, right? And you just don't know any better, and you get some like brown paint and it's bad, but you're like, all right, it's like brown, but this dude's picture is like, you can't even give him that like inkling. No. You can't even give him like the slightest inkling. Like nobody wants to change it. Like no one, like it's 2020. We're not changing our skin color for cosplay unless it's like blue or purple.
Yeah.
Unless it's like blue or purple. Everybody's on that page. But like, I feel like this is like how bad it is. Cause when I looked at like what someone was saying, I was like, all right, I bet he like painted himself black. I'm sure he didn't put like, weird like lips or something on. But then like I'm like, so like, you know, he's an idiot, but
holy shit.
And then I looked at it, it was literally shoe polish. Like you're not exaggerating. It is literally like, so it's basically the only reason it isn't total blackface is because he was too lazy to get like the big lips and and
he might as well didn't have frizzy hair.
He might as well have posed with a fucking like watermelon snapshot of Filipino champs hashtag watermelon. Like it was pretty bad. And like, but his whole mindset was that it was quote unquote a tribute.
Now, okay,
like
if I may,
that's where he was.
Yeah,
to be fair,
a tribute to Kimbo Slice, who was a huge black man. If I can be clear, if you're white or not black and you love Kimbo Slice and somehow you're going to a convention of MMA and you want to dress up as Kimbo Slice, you can do that. It's allowed. You can cosplay as a black guy as a white person. Do not.
Just don't color your skin.
Just don't color your skin.
Dude,
wear the chain, put on the do-rag, something, I don't know.
They just don't. I think they just don't. This is what, okay, I don't want to defend it because it is so stupid, but I do think it's from a place of such ridiculous ignorance.
I don't.
You really don't for him?
No.
Because you think that dude is smart enough to be a good enough liar to say, because I don't think he's smart enough. I don't think he's smart enough to.
Anyone who dresses up in black shoe polish to cosplay as a black person, you think? I don't know, man.
I don't mean anyone. I think him specifically. He is so okay. How could if he was smart enough? If he was smart enough to backpedal and say that it was a tribute, right? He would have been smart enough not to post the picture, I feel like. But he immediately
you think
posted,
it was a sincere tribute?
I'm not saying it was appropriate or excusable, but I do think, I do think he like thought in his brain,
in his mind's eye, or whatever.
When he looks at a person who's black, he just thinks like, if I dressed up with him, I would paint my skin black. I need the
shoe polish. That's the only way to do it.
Like, okay. Yes. I mean, I'm not defending the fact that
because you can't, because it's awful.
It is awful. But I do think that's where his brain was at. My point here is like, I think it's important to look at that. I think it is different than if he. Okay, let me drop a really similar. Let me drop a really similar one.
Hit me with it.
So there's a guy who filled in for one of my favorite bands, the Birthday Massacre. They're amazing, and they had a drummer that had some mental or not. I don't think it was mental. I don't know why it matters. It was a health issue. Anyway, he had some health issue and he couldn't come on tournament. And
he was playing in the Street Fighter tournament.
He couldn't come on
stage.
What's the tour? God, it was a T word. He couldn't go on tour. So they got this drummer. They got this drummer, okay? And I went to the concert with this fill-in drummer, and he was fucking amazing. I actually think the live performance of the songs that I heard for a lot of them was better than the album. I'm like, that's amazing. I go home, and Twitter has blown up, right? Twitter has blown up. And the lead singer is like, oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. We're already like through the tour. Do I cancel the tour and then ruin everyone who's already bought tickets because they don't get to see us? And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So I do some research and it turns out apparently this guy is like a racist. Okay. And I'm like, how is this guy a racist? And I start doing my digging. Okay. And I haven't seen anything that he said be racist. Okay. But what I eventually find is that he dresses up a lot, a la like Wes Borland. Okay. And he's dressed up as what I initially think is some sort of just generic thing. His skin is black. He has like, but it's like pitch black with like, it has like lines and stripes. It doesn't look like it's trying to be tribal. It looks kind of like random, but he has like long hair and like lipstick on, but it's like girly lipstick. Okay. So I'm like, all right, this dude's trying to like gender bend. Maybe he picked a bad color. I don't know. And then there's like a bunch of pictures of him. So I was thinking like, maybe he just didn't think it through, because there's other pictures of him like gender bend, like dressing up as for his, do you know what I mean? Wearing like blue or something. And I'm like, okay, but this is what, I don't know. I guess we'll see if Drew Gymie has this smoking gun. But there was like a picture of him with like, I don't know if it was a real cop or like a guy cosplaying as a cop, but the cop is like choking him out. And I was like, nope, that's it. No. This is clearly, why else would he be posing in the, like, why?
He knew.
Yes, clearly. Like, and that to me is a clear intent of like, no matter what you say, even if he didn't, maybe he even didn't intend to make it like blackface when he made the costume, but then when he was in it, he still clearly had the idea of like, oh, I'm in this.
Oh, I'm in blackface.
Why and now I'll go get a picture with this cop getting like beating me up or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that is shitty. Whereas like, this Drew Grimes guy just strikes me as a fucking moron. He just strikes me as a fucking moron. Like, I don't know.
I would like to take this opportunity to point out that not all racism has to come from a place of hate.
I agree.
A lot of times it can come from a place of ignorance. Yes. And I think in the case of anyone dumb enough to dress up in blackface in 2013 and then tell people 2013 or 2014.
Okay.
To dress up in blackface 5 to 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And then tell on yourself right after Filipino Champ got banned for Watermelon Gate and George Floyd got murdered.
You think that guarantees his racism?
Well, it either guarantees his racism or it guarantees he shouldn't be allowed to participate because he's going to make some really poor choices.
Oh, I'm not. No part of this was me saying that I think he shouldn't be canceled.
He should absolutely be canceled.
But, okay. Let's do another line really quick because I want to make sure that like this is coming across clearly. I think the degrees are important, and I think some people don't. And I always use Guilty, who we are both friends with, as an example because I have always said my line for everything that happened with Guilty has pretty much always been the same, which is that it wouldn't surprise me if quite a bit of the things that were said were true, and it wouldn't surprise me if she had stepped over a line at a certain point because she's always had kind of issues with certain social norms, and I feel like it was just kind of a ticking time bomb, and I can't help what she's doing. Whatever. It wouldn't surprise me. But I've also had people come to me and be like, did you know she was like, hosting rape parties or something? And I would just be like, no, that's not what happened. I wasn't there, but like the allegations are thus. The allegations sound pretty reasonable to me. In terms of the official ones. But then sometimes what happens is you tell someone that you punch someone in the face, and you're like, I punched someone in the face. I'm a piece of shit. I'm going to take my comeuppance. And then a week later, everyone decides that you're a murderer. So I feel like that is a hill I will die on as well. I think the degree of severity always matters. Even if the end result is that you are a piece of shit that we will not associate with. I always think
it's important to know how much of a piece of shit.
Yeah, because and most importantly, I think that gives you the best chance of not causing further rifts within the community and shooting yourself in the foot for the justice you tried to earn. And that's exactly what my point was with like Filipino Champ and Chris G going into this, which is that they definitely should have been canceled, but because of the way that they're canceled, we may now see them come back without having any proper
due recompense.
Yeah. And then I think on the flip side of that as well, it's important because it makes sure that you are being honest at all fronts, and it's transparency. So
transparency is important.
I always think that's important. So even if the end, because I feel like people are really quick to be like, so what? He's a piece of shit. I'm like, okay, but how and why? I personally,
I want to know.
I always want that. So I do think there's a difference between Drew Grimy and a guy doing actual. I do think there's a difference. They're both pieces of shit that shouldn't be in the community. Yes, but I do think there is an important distinction
to be made.
I don't know if distinction is quite right because they're on the same wavelength. Clearly.
Sure. Yes.
But so again, I will go back to punching someone versus murdering them.
Yeah.
You are a violent piece of shit that should not be around people
Yeah.
But it is a different thing entirely.
Sure.
And one is a lot easier to come back from or to think someone might be able to reform from. The other, people can reform from, but it takes a little bit more. And I think that's all important so that the community gets behind what is done. Because if they're not, suddenly it's like, well, this guy, suddenly you've got this person who it's like, say someone, let's just take the analogy full stream. Somebody punches someone, and then the narrative becomes that they repeatedly sat on them until they passed out, like by just punching the shit out of them. They just beat the shit out of them until they couldn't fucking maintain consciousness. But what really happened is they punched someone once in a scuffle, okay? So that person should have been banned, but then now you've got a second narrative, which is technically true, that lies are being told because you're propagating something that didn't happen. And now suddenly this guy who punched people gets reinstated because everybody has sympathy for the fact that he didn't actually sit on someone and punch the shit out of them until they passed out. He just hit one guy once, which is still shitty, but come on, it's bullshit and there's got to be some other stuff. And then suddenly that guy's back in the scene and maybe he's punching people again, or maybe if he's not punching people, he's generically doing other things that are toxic and bad. I don't know. Like, that's a slippery slope argument, I guess, too, but like, I think it's a valid one. I don't know.
You had 2 points. I wanted to add a third that deals with the degree to which someone has committed their crime. I feel like there is a degree of opportunity for rehabilitation depending on the offense. Because if you'd like shoved somebody and people are like, whoa, that was uncalled for, you shouldn't be doing that, I can understand why you should be banned from the community. But I feel like there's maybe like, a time limit that someone could come back from that. Like, maybe put them out of the community for a year, let them back in. And I'm not saying that I know what that time limit is for every offense, but I feel like knowing the degree of the offense could help to determine the possibility or the degree of rehabilitation that's necessary before they can come back in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
because if someone killed somebody, they probably shouldn't come back ever.
I think, so that's why I think there's a big difference sometimes between someone who does something that is the same kind of offense that is, maybe we should get a criminal justice person on here, and that's probably
that's what we need to do. Let's grab a lawyer to talk about fighting games and sex, and
but
ask them about their sex nightmares.
I think it's the same whether you're talking any kind of assault or any kind of racism or whatever. They're all bad, but there's a huge difference between a guy who repeatedly misreads signals and grabs people's butts and a guy who repeatedly misreads signals and roofies people and rapes them.
That's
you don't want either of those people
you don't want them back.
in your community. But there is a large degree of a difference that I think is important to distinguish between, because if you don't, I feel like it gives weight to
the claim that people are being lied about.
It gives weight to that, and it hurts your ability to build that stronger community, I think. And so it's like, if you're gonna do it, I don't know why you wouldn't be transparent about it. So anyway, we were gonna pick up on infiltration, I think was your next topic.
Yeah, as long as we're talking about like the degree to which someone can be canceled or how hard someone can be canceled or when you should probably not come back, I think infiltration merits being mentioned. I don't want to dwell too much on the horrible violence.
Let me just dip my toe in here real quick, because I had talked to you about this before the podcast, and my last check-in on this was around the time it was happening. And I was like, I don't know. It seems like maybe his partner did some stuff, and maybe he was in a weird situation.
Blame is to be shared.
I don't know, because there were certain like transcripts of things that had gone through, and this is for another podcast. But I'm no stranger to some abuse in relations myself, and there was a lot of it that read to me like I was like, I don't know. That seems like it could be a thing. But then you told me.
Yeah. So, okay.
that there were some new transcripts that I was not aware of. And so I don't think that anymore.
There's a newspaper in Korea that covered the whole issue with infiltration and his ex-wife, where there's a lot of he said, she said, because to a degree it happened in a vacuum and we can't know what went on because we weren't physically there. We might have a good idea.
Except we might.
Because in
we
the
gotta
newspaper,
adjust your mic for highs. You cut out on except again.
Oh, that sounds right. Yeah.
So anyway, except we might have an idea because.
Except we might have an idea because there was a recording of some of the wild shit what was said by Infiltration at the time, and obviously he didn't say it in English, and so there's some translation here. But she claimed in the newspaper that he basically tortured her in this argument, this violent argument that they had. And the transcript of the recording included crazy shit that Infiltration had said, like crawl, crawl, crawl. I'm going to make you so scared of me that you'll wet yourself at the sight of me. And then he said, be calm. And she said, why would I be calm? And he said, I wasn't asking you to be calm. It was a command. Do it. Just some real, like, wild, violent, irredeemable shit.
Pretty irredeemable.
And then he came back.
Irredeemable.
Yeah. Then he came back and he won Samurai Showdown at EVO. And he's free to compete again.
Except that they cut him out of the highlight video. So, you know.
Oh, well. They're doing, that's, excuse me, they did their due diligence.
And by extension, all of Sam's show.
Yeah, fuckers. Just
God. Yeah, I did not know about that until you talked about me earlier because I hadn't. I guess I missed that update. Yeah, that's pretty indefensible. Like, I think Infiltration probably should just be done.
Yeah, I would rather have F-Champ back, and I don't want F-Champ back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I feel is an example of like. You get the whole thing at a glance. You get the allegations. You can see how there is a possibility for there to be two sides, and you can also see like the exact scope of like we know a scumbag, so we probably can and should do something about it.
Yeah, I mean I've been in some situations where I get pretty heated, and I've never resorted to like telling someone I was going to chain them up and torture them or whatever the fuck that shit. Yeah. I mean, that's just so beyond. So yeah, I think Infiltration is one that, you know, we've had pretty interesting discussion, I think, this episode, but that's one where there really isn't a lot to discuss other than like, why the fuck? And the answer is just that he's really good. And that, and I'm not, again, that's not it's not the excuse, but that is what is currently happening, to make that clear. And that segues pretty directly into, I'll cap off for this episode, some of the WoW drama, because there's this guy who he's a top healer in a top guild, and they've done like mythic rating, world firsts, and all kinds of different shit. And he had some like allegations against him a while back, and this guild said that they were looking into it. They're like the biggest guild on the planet. So WoW is like crumbling right now, because there were multiple reports in 2018 that this dude was like messaging 13-year-old girls and like sending them lewds and exchanging like videos and then like threatening them and doing all kinds of weird shit. There were like multiple reports of this, but they were like all kind of like quote unquote not, you know, definitive or whatever the fuck. And what has made the whole thing blow up even more is that this guild was like, we didn't know about this. We didn't know about this. We had this report. We investigated immediately. And we're shocked and appalled that anyone would accuse us of knowing the extent of his behavior. We didn't know it. And we've cut all ties with him now. And then like immediately there's all these replies of screenshots of messages from the guild head and the guild head's girlfriend from 2018 talking about this exact issue. There's a video of the creepy rapist pedophile guy talking during one of their streams, and then everyone in the guild immediately jumps in and tells him to stop talking because they didn't realize he wasn't muted to the stream. They thought he was only talking to them. And then there's like the worst thing of it all. Well, the worst thing is the rape and the pedophilia. The rape and the pedophilia is the worst thing. But the most damning evidence is you can't make this shit up. There is a fucking SoundCloud from this dude, this fucking rapey pedo dude,
The rapey
in this guild.
pedophile.
He has a SoundCloud, and there's a song, and it's like a Insel 9000 Eminem rap, where at the beginning of the song, he's talking about how he like can't get women and he doesn't know why. And then by the end of the song, he's just like, fuck you, bitch. I'm going to put you in a cage and you'll do what I say or I'll murder you. And then there's like screenshots of him talking about how he wants to murder a woman to see the life drain from her eyes to know what it feels like. And this is all shit that happened when these guild people who are saying that they didn't know about it, they're like, here are the screenshots of me telling you about this. So basically, this entire guild has been dropped by every organization. Everyone has quit the guild. And it's this dude and his girlfriend who run the guild who are still trying to act like they don't know about it. And people are just like, I don't know how that's possible because
it's not.
Here you go.
Clarification.
So, yeah.
Who supplied the SoundCloud and evidence?
The dude uploaded it himself. It's a song he made. Rapey pedo dude was like, check out this banger. And it's his.
Okay, so obviously, did he share the banger?
Yeah, it's still public. He hasn't made it not public right now.
Why?
I don't know.
But you're saying you made it sound as though he provided a log, the creepy rapist.
Okay, I don't know whether he shared that song with the guild or not. Okay. I don't know that evidence. I know that people...
there is the smoking gun.
I know people knew about lots of other things.
Okay. I just wanted to... Because, like, if you're like, hell yeah, this is my jam, then you gotta, like, vanish. You gotta be wished away to the cornfield.
It went from cringe to, like, very disturbing quickly. And not even, like, vaguely this could be artistic expression of blah.
Sure.
Just, like, really, really specific, to the point, connecting to real life incidents.
Did he murder someone?
I couldn't say whether I would be confident that he hadn't based on some of this shit.
Has he been charged with murder?
There's a Twitch VOD where he's sitting next to this, what's her name? Her name, unfortunately, is like Poop Noodle, which is actually a godlike name, but to be taken seriously in this context, it's an unfortunate one.
We're sitting here talking about rape and murder,
but it's noodle. Yeah, her name is like Poop Noodle,
Key witness Poop Noodle,
and she was somehow affiliated with the guild and had gone to this guy's house as part of like a stream collaboration for X amount of time. And there's a VOD where like she says something. She's like trying to create a character. She's never played WoW before. And he's supposed to like teach her how to do WoW things because he's like one of the best healers in the world. It's like, I don't know, some stupid shit content that I don't understand how people watch, but anyway.
But they watch in the millions.
But they watch in the millions. So they're making some shit content like that. And she's like making a gnome and she says she's going to like make her gnome some name. And he's like, fuck you. Don't fucking make your gnome that name. That's the dumbest name ever, you fucking dumbass. And there's like a point where you're like, maybe it's like, maybe they know each other and it's some weird
and he's like ribbing and
humor or something. Maybe, haha, like it's awkward, but maybe like you want to like give it the benefit of the doubt. And then immediately he goes, look at my hand. And then it's not cut off by the webcam and he's just holding a knife.
What?
And then she says, haha, what the fuck? And then has the laugh of sheer terror, but tries to make it not sound like terror because she's with a guy who might stab her, apparently. And then just plays it off. And that's just a clip on Twitch that has existed. And Twitch apparently didn't.
They were like, nice. Bring in the views for us, please.
Twitch didn't have a problem with that, apparently. So it's pretty bad. It's like.
Holy shit.
It's really, 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 really bad.
Is that what the Twitch blackout was about?
It's.
Or is that
meant? I mean,
I'm sure it's related.
It's not about that
history.
It's bold of you to assume there's only one such instance occurring on Twitch right now, Alex. Based on everything we've said about about everything today.
How shit everybody is. So I guess we got to cancel Twitch too. So I guess I'll be streaming on Mixer.
Yeah. Well, Mixer's dead, lol.
Oh no.
So yeah, I don't know, man. Anyway, that's our we'll call this one Cancellation Roundup. I wish I could end it on a happier note. But that's what's been happening this week in the world of video games and streaming and things.
If there's a happy note for this to end on, let it be that we're watching you. Sorry, no, I meant like we're now holding people accountable. We are actively canceling people.
I can't think of a better way to end this, so I have been MetalMusicMan.
And I've been Professor Lex.
And we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
See ya.